Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. Gonna stand my ground.
Welcome back to Stormfront, second hour. We're here every day for 2 hours, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m., beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and whatever time it is wherever you are. My second hour co-host today is Don Adbo. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Don Black. Global warming greetings.
Yes, another. Well, thank you. Another Double Don Day. And we're privileged today to have with us the second hour our very special guest, Don Beattie from Canada, the head of the British People's League in Canada. I guess I first met you, Don, back in. Sometimes my memory turns out to be wrong, but I remember.
I can't pin the date down. It was
1969. I'm reasonably certain. 69. September 69.
I didn't know whether I was going to mention this or not. It was kind of a chuckle. I was remembering I got switched from the meeting, big motel room. One guy didn't feel comfortable. He was looking after me, and I'm sure you knew him very well, Ray Lehart.
Right, yes, I did by that point. In 69, by the time I drove up with Ray Lehart.
Oh, fantastic. Well, he switched me to the room that you and David Duke were in, et cetera, and a whole bunch. And I remember getting close to lights out time. I looked over, and here's this young guy with all kinds of bandages across his chest. And I thought, and you were giving me a funny look at the way I was peering at you. Yeah.
Right, that would have been in 70. I think we actually crossed paths the first time in 69, and then I think you were there in 69 too.
Yes.
And then in 70 we
better memory than I have.
With all recovering from a gunshot wound.
Oh, I thought maybe you fell on some steps.
Right. No, it was a little more serious than that.
Yeah,
I was fairly well recovered by then. It had been that had happened July 25th, and this was Labor Day weekend. So I was actually standing in Washington D.C., standing up against the Jewish Defense League with all the rest of the troops at a rally, which was part of that event. Yeah. And I remember those days well. Like in some ways, I would do it all over again if I had to, but in other ways, I wish I could recapture that youthful enthusiasm.
Yeah, we're getting old, aren't we, sir?
I know.
But I do want to, you'd mentioned a privilege. I'm the one that's privileged. It's just fantastic to be reuniting after all these years with you'd be nonstop. I've had a few gaps over the years and tried different approaches, and I'm particularly pleased with your co-host, his knowledge of history. I was listening yesterday to the President's Day for you folks down there, and you've just got it going. You really have. I'm not buttering you up. If one thing, I'm kind of a critical guy, and maybe I am hard to get along with, but you folks, between you and your Don Advo and then Roy and Father Francis and the mom of 3 kids, I mean, you've just got it. It's just a nice dialogue. It's intelligent, it's hard, but it's smooth and it's not wacko.
Well, I appreciate that. It's hard for me to evaluate this show objectively since I'm in the middle of it. I have this bad habit for a radio host is that I've never liked to listen to myself. A lot of people are like that. Most people are like that, I think. But I don't normally listen to the shows after we've done them. And we really should. I would learn something from our critic, learn some constructive criticism. But I'm glad to hear that when other people say that. But I also appreciate anybody that's got constructive criticism. It won't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time scanning all the different groups. I just started YouTube Daily yesterday, and one of my main focuses is going to be to promote positivity with the groups that I feel are really, really up at the top of the ladder. And I don't know what else you could do to improve. I really don't. You've just got it. You've got the great callers. You've got your co-hosts. You've been through the mill. It's not like anybody can say, well, what example are you? I mean, you've been at it nonstop all these decades. Just on that, while I'm on that, I'll tell you, I've been promoting for years that there's people with money out there, and when are they going to come forward? Well, proof came this past weekend. A billionaire in Switzerland financed the referendum to oppose immigration from the European Union, and they won. They won this past weekend. A billionaire did the trick. The people were there just like you have great people. Billionaires are out there. And if I was a headhunter looking for the best white patriot group, I'd be scanning all the groups. I've got this $1 billion, and I know that America's dying and our race is dying. I'll tell you, you've got it. You've got all these years you've been at it. You've got the know-how. You've picked out, or however you've done it, you've gathered these great people. And you're it. You're the one that some big shot is going to pick down the road. It has to happen.
Well, I appreciate your optimism there. But as I've pointed out many times, these people that have a lot of money generally didn't get that way by giving it away. So, of course, they're not only very careful about whom they give it to. If it's a cause they support, they want that cause to be effective. And I would hope that we have demonstrated to some degree that we are effective. At the same time, they want to be careful for their own selfish interest in that anytime anyone with any kind of money appears to be supporting any of our causes, they are immediately targeted by the usual suspects, by the Southern Poverty Law Center, by the Anti-Defamation League, all these Jewish groups. They are targeted, and these groups attempt to destroy them, to completely destroy their businesses, whatever money they have, in any way they can. Now, if they're secure enough, they don't really have to worry about that, but it's still of some concern to them. But I don't want to base all of our hopes on some billionaire coming along. And
Got you.
And we do have a lot of people out there of varying financial means.
Oh, yeah, and people I notice when I read your Stormfront, et cetera, they're keeping it going, and as you say, some months are rough. But I still maintain that's been the missing link. That's just me. And things are good abroad. I mean, Australia is gunboat diplomacy, taking the illegal boat people, stopping them at sea, and taking them, switching them, their boats, taking them right back to Java in Indonesia and dumping them on the beach. So, I mean, there's two real optimistic things I feel. The Swiss referendum in our favor, and Australia is definitely gunboat diplomacy. It's far away, but, if it's happening there, it's got to happen here, too. I mean...
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of cause for optimism out there. Absolutely.
What do you think, Don Advo? What do you got to say?
Oh, I'm just taking all this in from these two old war horses.
Yeah, but you've been at it a while, too. You told me
I'm taking notes here.
The audience one day about you being
I came late to the racial party. I was colorblind for most of my life, and I'm still coming to terms with how destructive that really is. The whole colorblind scenario. I've come to despise conservatives almost as much as the people on the other side. But I did want to ask, how's the global warming up there in Minden, Ontario? Well,
it's not good. I quit my job to be full-time for the cause, and believe me, I froze in February. I made a decision. I had to have a house secure in my name, so I stayed at the job until I did. I've not heard Don Black bring this up, but I had to have a house because I was so well known that landlords would mess their pants. Well, John, I'll rent to you, but you better be a good boy. So I've been dreaming of the day I could be really full-time, which started yesterday on your President's Day. That was my first I'm calling it the Dinosaur News. And I'm going to steal and borrow from the Don Black Show. Your 2 hours started a month before my plans, and I'll be inspired. When I get off today from this conversation, I will be inspired to do the daily YouTube with news from you people, and I must admit I'll pinch a headline or two from Drudge Report or wherever. But I had to get the house secure 6 years ago, because that's been my problem. I've had more landlords kick me out over different reasons. Well, I guess one guy had a bit of a reason. It was 1989. We had 167 young people. For some reason, a lot of them were premature bald. And we had a candle lighting. I think it was about 40 meters high. It was pretty damn high. So that landlord was kind of shook up. I tried to convince him of the old Oxford Dictionary definition of the fiery cross being Scottish, but he is a fundamentalist Christian, so he thought I was insulting his religion, which of course not. Christianity is the old base of Western civilization.
What's the biggest obstacle to white activism in Canada today?
I don't know. I don't want to sound too optimistic all the time. I personally have a blind list, I call it. I love that blind copy on your email setups, because then not everybody knows what you're talking. And answer your question, it is the lack of an activist in my case. I've got people, there's a gal in Oshawa, well, her political title is Sarah from Oshawa. She's a genius at answering questions and so on. I give a lot of credit to part of her Ukrainian blood. She can win anybody over. I've got other people in the wings. We've got a young guy out west. As soon as we get a driver that we can head out, I've got two van plans. One is specifically to hit the white villages, especially with what Mom was talking about earlier on your show today, and Roy too, about the marrying of the outsiders and even in the villages. So I want to pick it in front of the post offices, which is a symbol of federalism. Simply keep our villages majority white, to let them know there is a group. But I also have another idea, like your Matt Home back down there is hitting the streets, etc. So I always take the second easiest path. I want to hit the eateries, the plazas with these massive indoor eateries. Up here in the smaller cities like Peterborough and Oshawa, they're just ripe. I can tell who's tuning in on these statistics, so I know Peterborough and Oshawa are the biggest centers of listenership to previous YouTubes when I was doing them just bi-weekly. And I honestly feel if a dozen of us showed up, okay, let's say 6 or 7, with bright T-shirts with the .com, etc., have our hamburgs be seen there. Rotate so that our opposition can't set anything up. Just be seen in those huge eateries, I think, is just as effective as on the streets. Or the mantra that the young fellows on March 15th are going to drop off the highway overpasses, etc. So we've all got deals, but I see this show, co-hosts and all, and Don Black, I just see your show as a focal point for all groups. I really do. Where else are you going to get 2 hours right at this beautiful timing of discussion as to the peril our race is in and how we're going to fix it?
Yeah, well, we're happy. As I've mentioned on this show, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm happy with the progress we've made as far as our listening audience numbers, which continue to decrease almost every day. And we have a much bigger audience than we had on WPBR, which we ran for 3 years on WPBR 1340 AM here in West Palm Beach, which of course also had an internet feed. But the Renz Radio Network has a whole infrastructure that we didn't have there. We've gotten a large chunk of our audience comes from regular Renz listeners, and most of the rest from Stormfront, but also people just hearing about us and tuning in. Weren't really familiar with either one, Renz or Stormfront. So we continue to grow, and we have an unknown number of listeners who tune in via KU satellite, and there are apparently quite a few of those. Our engineer was telling me when the satellite has been down in the past, they got a lot of calls from people that listen to our shows from satellite. And in addition to that, of course, people listen by phone. They can call in if, and I want to give that number. I always want to plug that number because a lot of people do not have internet or don't use it much. 712-432-7855. And there are some other internet networks that pick up the Ren's radio feed. So we've got a pretty big audience. David Duke follows us. He's got a somewhat bigger audience than ours. He got a boost from us when we first went on the air. A lot of people stay over and listen to his show coming up at 11. So I am happy. I'm real happy with this. I would be reluctant to spend the time and money doing this if we weren't reaching a lot of people and growing, and in fact growing. So I appreciate your comments as far as the content. I'm glad that it's coming across well. I disagree in that it can always be improved, and I'm always finding little glitches, technical glitches, mistakes, and general content issues that I would like to improve. So we're far from perfect. You're doing a
great job, I tell you. I don't know how you get the time. Just doing a 20-minute YouTube wears me out. You're up for 2 hours.
I agree. This wears you out. This stuff, it's not just sitting around chatting with your friends. It's kind of like that, but you do have to do a little preparation, and it's something when I finish this show, I'm kind of exhausted.
Sure. You don't pre-plan everything. And, of course, you're concerned that as you speak, if everything is coming out good, that's where your co-hosts are such a great cover, give you a bit of a break during the shows. I think that your Mr. Advo there needs to be drawn out a bit more, because once he gets going on a roll, he's fantastic, right, Don?
He is. That's the reason we have him here, and I'm interrupting him right now. But Mr. Advo has to just jump in. And,
he's too polite. He's too polite.
Well, let me ask John a question. We see here in the United States a greater willingness of white people to really speak openly about things that have really been chafing at them for a very long time. Do you see any of that kind of change in Canada?
Well, no doubt the hate laws affect a lot. I'm always the loose cannon. I'm known in a lot of circles as that, because I hate to say it, but in some ways the hate law does us a favor. It refines us. If we could get something going as refined as the show you're on right now, there's no hate talk at all. It's all factual and reasonable discourse. So up here, I think once it gets rolling, something, whether it's the van plans or, I hate it to be me trying to attempt your talk show length and so on. My nerves couldn't handle it. I just age or whatever. I tried the all-encompassing white approach for years and years. It just didn't work for me. And I put it on yesterday's short blurb on YouTube. So finally my wife and I, she's deceased now, but we said, look, we can't please everyone. Ricky Nelson's corny song, you can't please everyone, Garden Party, you can't please everyone, you've got to please yourself. So we just decided the phone book's up here, it's still 50% of British stock. And of that, who cares? Not too many, but still. So I'm accenting the sub-tribe aspects, Germans proud of their heritage and British and French and so on. Because I've tried the all-encompassing approach, it didn't work for me. But yeah, this radio show seems to work good. You've got callers from every sub-tribe of the white race, and I haven't heard a quarrel on this show in the entire time you've been back on. And to do it up here, I know what you're getting at, Don Advo. I mean, what can we get going up here? But that 167 young people for 3 days in 1989 proved it's out there. But of course, we got bounced. He didn't have a legal right, the landlord, but we did get bounced, and we just moved up the road to a spot with no hydro, no running water, 3 kids. So it was rough. But it's out there. I know they're out there. They just want to see something going, a bit of progress, and success breeds success, optimism on top of optimism. And again, I go back to your show. This show, I'm sure, is increasing your numbers because of the optimism you're giving people just by being there 5 days a week for 2 hours. And we need that up here. I know we do, but I sure as hell hope it's not me. I got dragged into YouTube, but I figured, well, if some colored teenagers can figure out YouTube, then an old white man should be able to. But believe me, I had a hard time. A web person in Western Ontario and a guy in Britain, they just dragged me at it and shoved it at me. So, but that's what's
down here in the States, we're always being beaten over the head with the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow and all those ugly things. And that's kind of the club that is beating us into submission, has been used so effectively for decades. You never had slavery or plantations or cotton or sugarcane in Canada. What is the club that they used to beat Canadians over the head with?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. The difference is because of so many British root descendants here in Canada, they lost a lot of people in the war. Of course, war is hell and everybody lost, but you know, with such a large, prominent German-American population, you know, the bombs were dropped on Germany. Well, up here, everyone's got a relative of the 50% that are still a British stock across the country, not counting the cities. And they all had a grandparent who suffered in the war or knew about the war. So that's the equivalent problem we've got up here. So when you're called a fascist or a Nazi up here, it really makes the heads turn. Whereas down in the States, it's so overused that nobody pays attention anymore. But that's still a slight problem. But then I answer your question the best I can. But on the other hand, nobody cares anymore up here either. I just feel it's a big snowball, a big white snowball. We're at the top of the mountain waiting to get rolling. And once it rolls in Canada, I think that the world's going to be shocked. I know there's frustrated people out there. They haven't got the American free speech, but that can be bypassed. I mean, you know, what have we been talking now for half an hour? And all the shows, there's nothing comes near the hate laws. I know criticism of Israel or whatever, and this guy Harper up here, he kisses the rear ends, but I'm always the loose cannon. Harper, to me, is very cunning. He's kissing the Jew rear end and bouncing his head off the Wailing Wall over there.
Who is Harper, John?
He's the Prime Minister of Canada.
All right.
Okay, so he's almost like a Tea Partyist, and I hear the music coming on, yeah.
Okay, we'll be back on the other side of the break with John Beattie.
And it wouldn't do an ounce of good to call my name, 'cause Daddy's name wasn't Willie Woodrow, and I wasn't born and raised in no ghetto, just a white boy looking for a place to do my thing. Well, I'm out to find
oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at Rense.com. Look for the New Earth banner at Rense.com.
Hi everyone, this is Jeff Rentz, and I'm here to tell you that there is a drug-resistant superbug perfect storm that is on a collision course with mankind. Infections that were previously treatable are returning with a vengeance. Yes, the rise of the superbugs is here, and we all have to take it very seriously. We're at the end of the age of antibiotic drugs, and drugs are quickly becoming increasingly irrelevant as bacteria and other microorganisms have learned to evolve and to outsmart them. But there is a solution. I've seen it firsthand, and I have used it with impressive success. You must obtain Carnivora. That's CARNIVORA.com. Carnivora was used successfully by the American president in 1985. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY. That's 1-866-VENUS-FLY. I'm urging you to give Carnivora a try. You must protect yourself and your loved ones now. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY today.
Scientists in England have succeeded in stabilizing the time-honored substance in garlic that destroys harmful bacteria, viruses, molds, yeast, and fungus. This all-natural microbe killer is called Allicin C, and it's now available to you in 100% vegetarian capsules only on the New Earth page at rense.com. This powerful broad-spectrum antimicrobial agent is harmless to friendly bacteria and has been concentrated to equal an astonishing 35 cloves of garlic in each vegetarian capsule. Think about it. The antibacterial, antiviral strength of 35 odorless cloves of garlic in just one capsule. Allicin C is so effective it even destroys superbug MRSA in test after test. Allicin C is truly an incredible advance in natural medicine, and with the threats of bacterial and viral diseases and pandemics growing, no home should be without it. Learn more and order Allicin C on the New Earth page at rense.com.
Welcome back to the last half hour of Stormfront. I am your host, Don Black, with my co-host, Don Advo, and our special guest, John Beattie from Canada, leader of the British People's League. So we for old guys like you and me, John, we've got a lot of optimism. So where do you see in the next 40 years? Let's extend it. No, it's been 45 since you and I first met. And I want to, on a somewhat down note, when I first became involved in our cause in 1969, I joined the Arlington group, of course, where we met, and also nearby the National Youth Alliance at DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. I don't know if you ever went over there.
No,
but there was the NYA was later taken over by William Pierce the following year, 1970, and he dropped the youth a little later. But there was an article by Revelo Oliver called After 50 Years, which he wrote for the National Youth Alliance, how he thought that the NYA had a lot of potential to take things back. After 50, it was called After 50 Years of Failure, basically. And he described the so-called right wing in America and Canada and Europe having failed for 50 years since the Bolshevik Revolution, having lost most of all of the battles, basically. Well, now it's been 45. It's been after 45 years for me. And I can, even as bad as things have gotten, as bad as all the things, which we talk about all the time on this show and on our websites, all of our shows, as bad as things have gotten in the past few decades, and I thought we had hit the pits back in 1970 when I was 17 years old. I didn't know how bad they could get. But as bad as they've gotten, at the same time, I think there is a tremendous cause for hope because of the fact that there are so many people out there. First of all, the fact that we do have an alternative media now, this program being part of it, and all of your work being part of it. The fact that we do have an alternative media, and the fact that we have among a certain segment of our people a significant, I think they're a minority, but they're a significant minority of our people who fully understand what's going on, which back in 1970, I didn't see that at all. we had a lot of people that were mad about what was going on. And where I was from, of course, I was a lot different from Toronto, but I was in North Alabama, and we had a lot of people in Alabama really mad about forced school integration, and then later affirmative action, anti-white discrimination, then later immigration, all of this. But that was about as far as it went. They were just mad about issues, whereas they didn't understand the real issues, what was really behind all of this. And I think now, largely because of the fact we do have an alternative media, that we have a lot more potential now, a lot more reason for hope than we've had. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I totally agree with everything you just said. The only thing I fear down the road is the backlash is going to be really wild. I mean, when white people start to reclaim things, and I'm a dreamer, but those two aspects I started out earlier in the show, the billionaire in Switzerland and the Australian gunboats, there's just two symbols. Everything you said I agree with, and that to me is the reason for optimism. And throughout history, I believe, you read it all over the different blogs, that a minority have always taken a stand. We've got a group of gray-haired civil servants up in Ottawa and with us all the way. And, they're into a lot of the British identity stuff and so on, but she's always shoving it at me that very, very few are chosen to speak up, like yourself and Don Advo and all your other co-hosts in the works. And I remember my dear mommy, she passed away early, lobar pneumonia in her 40s, but anyway, before she passed on. And she said, everything you're saying, Johnny, is right, but why does it have to be you? Well, I guess you've asked yourself that, Don, many times. Why you? Or maybe your wife has said it to you. Whatever. But here we are, and we are the few. And I just think it's a miracle that we've reconnected like this, and the few that are out there. And then these young mad hangbacks coming along, so they're out there. But it just seems at key times, but I'm sorry to keep referring to it, but when the money fluid comes in, and I hope that you people with the purse strings out there listening hard, because you're the only thing holding back, in my humble opinion, the success. We've got the people. We've got the platform. We've got the program. People like Father Francis and Roy and the mom there that phones in. They're all intelligent people. We could go on a traveling talking show that would just beat the band and beat the drums. And it's up to you guys out there with the big dough. The little people are keeping Stormfront going and so on. But you guys out there, and you don't have to always be smeared. I don't know how this billionaire did it in Switzerland. He'll be cursed, but he did it. And then the guy in Australia, next door to Austria, Haider, I think his name was, with the Australian People's Party. Well, he ended up in an unfortunate car accident. Well, that's war, and we're at legal war. I couldn't add to anything you said, Don. I do want to slip in a bit of a cartoon, though, that when you introduced it as the two Dons, sometimes I might think of the White Mafia, but I wouldn't think that. Isn't that what they call them in the Mafia, Dons?
Yeah. I can't recall the Italian name, but it is Don. In fact, in our
Don Corleone, yeah.
Just to shut up finally on this point, I just see that when the backlash comes, it's going to be rough on the third worlders and others. And if I was them, honestly, this isn't a threat. You kidding? I'm just talking legal here. But if I was them, I'd consider getting my boat ticket back to my homelands now, because when the white man, our hardest job is going to be to control when we really have powerful lobby forces with established people. Could all be a pipe dream, but I don't think so. I sort of tune in with the girls in Ottawa that we're here for a reason and a purpose, and we're ready. So bring it on, baby.
Right. By the way, the Italian government did play on the Don issue. They when they tried to shut down Stormfront by arresting our moderators a year and a half ago. 4 moderators. Like they released a chart, and they tried to portray us as a criminal organization particularly the Italian forum. The Italian, it's just a one of our many sub-forums. We have a Canadian forum, British, other countries, various sub-forums, as everybody knows who comes to Stormfront. They tried to portray the Italian forum as a criminal organization. And they had a chart of the leaders of this organization, and the Don, me, I was at the top, along with our other administrators whose names they didn't know.
Unreal.
It was incredible. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
To watch this all unfold, too much to bear. If this is the way it ends.
Whether your alleged government has told you or not, America has been receiving nearly nonstop airborne radiation in one form or another from Fukushima for 3 years in March. And now, with the radioactive polluted mass of the Pacific Ocean about to hit the entire West Coast, you must prepare yourself. The tragedy of Chernobyl resulted in the development of one of the most potent fighters of radiation poisoning known. It's called BioAge Superfood, a blend of the four most powerful immune-building, radiation-protecting, Chernobyl-proven algae on the planet. Grown in Kamchatka and imported to the U.S., I have taken BioAge Superfood for nearly 3 years and would never be without it. Go to BioAge.com, mention Rents, and get 10% off this essential immune-building product. That's BioAge.com, and mention Rents for a 10% discount. BioAge.com.
You have been chosen, yes, you, to discover for yourself what thousands have already experienced, the most life-changing health product in the world. It's called Royal Velvet, and there's nothing else like it. Royal Velvet users testify to receiving hundreds of benefits, from reversing the effects of aging to mental clarity, as well as noticeably improved sleep, energy, libido, overall health, and so much more, including saving lots of money. This is the real deal, that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you will regret if you don't act upon it. Honestly, there is an extremely limited amount of raw material, making it available only to a select few, a very select few. So find out why you have been chosen. Go to RoyalVelvetNow.com, click on the rinse icon in the upper right-hand corner for an incredible surprise. Oh yeah, if you place your order before we run out of them, you will receive the eye-popping but simple-to-read book that tells you how to live in divine health, and it's free. RoyalVelvetNow.com.
Oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at Rinse.com. Look for the New Earth banner at Rinse.com.
Welcome back to Stormfront. I am your host, Don Black, with my co-host, the other Don, the Don Advo, and our special guest, John Beattie of the British People's League in Canada, in Toronto. So we've got 20 or 15 minutes left in the show. Don Advo, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, I'd love to. I had a question I wanted to ask of John. Here in the States, we have, of course, we're a federal republic, and the states came together, and the states have traditionally challenged the exercise of federal power, although not always so successfully. Is there any precedent for that in Canada? What exactly is the role of the provinces in their relationship to the Canadian central government?
Well, we don't have quite states' rights, anything near it. The federal government up here, constitutional monarchy, but there is more control from Ottawa, that's for sure. We don't have the states' rights, provincial rights the same, but you get some good Tea Party type premiers in. The head of each province is called a premier, and some of them are really good. But see, the federal government, thrilled me when they shot down Section 13 of the Human Rights Act. Now, the fellow on the West Coast is being persecuted, Frederick Topin, under the hate law, but that's the big one. That's the one where you can't preach genocide and you can't stir up hatred against a group. Heavy-duty stuff, even though truth can be used as a defense. What's my point? The federal government up here is not controlled by Israeli stooges. Just because they go over to the Wailing Wall, which they all do, but he's splitting the Jewish vote. He is, because Trudeau's son is running for the Liberal government. There's a good chance to get in, just like Trudeau Sr., all the Liberal laws. But in answer to your question, everything is pretty well federal up here. But getting into that Section 13, some people say in our circles that, well, that's because a couple of Jewish writers got criticized for criticizing Muslims, and they were going to be charged on it. Well, not so. Richard Kotler is a top Jewish financier, whatever, in Montreal, in Trudeau's old riding. He fought against kicking off that Section 13. He fought ferociously, along with the entire Liberal government, but the Conservative Party of Harper kept plodding along, and they killed the bill. It was given a 1-year lapse period. It ends in June. That bill was used harshly on people like Mark Lemure up here, and a gal in Western Ontario lost her website, etc. That was used much more harshly, and that I probably couldn't talk as freely today on this show if I knew that bill, that law was still there. So it kicked off the books. The other laws there, yes, but if you want to make Israel and Jews your target all the time, I mean, you can say a lot, but if you want to make it really rough, well, you're risking that law, which isn't fair. Of course it isn't. And I'm very ashamed throughout my right-wing career. I'm ashamed that I was used because in the 60s they built me up as a monster, neo-Nazi fascist, and there was no such thing. I mean, me making my trips to the States made it look big, and John Gerhardt, a great guy who's still at it in Ohio, used to put me up. But they just built up this fictitious monster to pass the hate law. And the big one's still on the books. But, there's ways around it without being a coward. But in answer to your initial question,
this is what I don't understand about Canada. I lived in Canada as a kid briefly. We talked about this, and I lived near your area and have wonderful memories of it. It was a solidly white country, very stable, very civilized. People didn't lock their doors, that whole kind of thing. What is the base? It seems like the countries with the least arguable history of racism and slavery and all that, or like Canada, are the countries which have the harshest anti-racist laws. I don't understand that. Why were the Canadian people, it took a civil rights movement and a revolution and almost a civil war in the 50s and 60s in this country to batter the white people into the position of subservience we are in now. I'm not aware that ever existed in Canada. How did people who fought 2 world wars for freedom and democracy become so easily, thrown under the bus by all of this? Did you guys have a civil rights movement there or something like that? I never heard of it.
No, but I don't want to sound like, how do I answer? Am I bragging or what? There were headlines across the country. I just had to pick up the telephone and I was quoted by the major news media. John Beattie said this, John Beattie said that, and it was all a bunch of bullshit build-up. I got free beer from the Canadian Jewish Congress. the Canadian Jewish Congress put on the crusade for the hate law.
So what you're telling me is they used you as an anvil and against which they could pass all these laws.
Absolutely,
you would pretext for that?
They poured the beer down my throat, and I would say anything for free beer. I had a beer problem, that's for sure, back then. And it's a fact. You could ask your other co-host all about it. As a matter of fact, he even printed it. I think it's in Wikipedia. If you look up John Beattie, the whole story's in there. They just built me up, and I don't even know how I was used. I just went along for the free beer. I'd say or do anything for free beer.
The white population of Canada was bent over the way it is today with the restraints on their freedom because of a propaganda campaign about one individual?
Yes. Yes,
Jeez,
yes.
That's
Party.
I don't
go
know.
back, Don, to what I said earlier. The British.
That doesn't seem like a very strong society that could be so easily deceived. I mean, you know, sometimes I'm ashamed of Americans, but at least we fought back.
Yes,
there was resistance to this in the 50s and 60s.
I got you. But again, it goes back to your roots, the tribal roots of Britain for half the population of Canada. And back then, even in the 60s, it was about 60% British. And the British suffered in the war just as the Germans did and other people. And they remember Coventry. And they, you know, for every talk of Dresden, there's Coventry and others, even though Dresden was far worse. That is what they played on.
World War II was your civil rights movement. That was
yes, they played on that big time. The legions, they still natter on about the bombs dropping on their grandparents and all the legion halls. But having said all that, we're bypassing it with Mr. Don Black's show here and you being on. We're bypassing it, and it's out there. Of course, I got your point. You're wondering why hasn't there been anything. It's here. It's here, and believe me, once we get the gas money and the Hamburg money, we're going to roll. It's just sitting sort of frozen. Like Don Black has organized the Stormfront board and the whole bit, along with his cohorts. There are people up here just waiting, and
young white people have a sense that their future has been stolen from them. They're having a hard time getting into colleges because of the minorities, and they're having a hard time getting jobs. And there was an awakening after this last Obama re-election. That hit people like a thunderclap. You could hear them call into the mainline talk shows as though they were in shell shock. You know what happened, and people started openly talking about attacks on white people, and this gloating about how we were disappearing. And of course, some of these colorblind conservatives kind of tried to blow it away and push it under the rug. They don't like to talk about race, but is there no sense of awareness among young white people there, or even old white people, that the future is being stolen from them?
Well, let's do a litmus test. I'm going to run for Deputy Reeve up here, and it wasn't even my suggestion. It was a member of the establishment up here, which I would swear under oath I'd never reveal the name. And that would be a litmus test. That election comes up in the fall. And I have a YouTube right now. If you click in Minden Deputy Reeve, amongst the establishment types, there's the YouTube of Beattie about running for Deputy Reeve. But in answer to your point, that would be a good litmus test. But yes, they do care. I've never had a window broken. Even after that rally in 1989, we went over to Britain. My father-in-law paid for it. And spoke with John Tyndall. My point is, when we came back, there wasn't a window broken. That was within 12 days after this massive rally that made national news again. They used me, scapegoat or whatever. They build up this false image. I'm called a wild Nazi even to this day. But do people care? Well, in the village here, after a couple of beers, they all come up to me, chum, chum, chum. But those beer days are done for Beattie Boy because I got to pay the mortgage now so I can keep doing YouTube. But they do care. They just haven't organized the free, like you quoted Alex de Tocqueville the other day. And Tocqueville said, you know, and you said it, you know, the ability to organize of the American people, the freedoms that you established when you had your revolution, etc. We're envious of up here. But, you know, the atmosphere is out there. People are fed up to, and once they see a little bit of success, they'll want in on it. They really will, and I don't think that's a dream.
Well, we had a very famous, eminent pro-white orator who gave a speech at the NPI conference back late last year, and he said he thought we had made a mistake in separating from Great Britain, and in the War for Independence, even though all of his ancestors had been rebels against the crown. Excuse me, and it occurred to me, if we hadn't separated, we'd have the same free speech laws here that you guys have in Canada.
Absolutely.
How is that a victory?
Yeah. Well, can't add to that. I heard that talk too. I mean, now in full time, I can scour the internet for the YouTubes of all the great speakers in Emran, and I'm there and thrilled again at how Don Black and Emran are all pals, and what's it, Edwards with the cesspool, and there's Duke following this show. So, it's there. I think there's nothing but optimism. Well, I guess with the blinders, I mean, as the mom with the 3 kids phoned in and everybody's marrying into the third world, but not everyone. And I think we have to focus on bringing in the sheaves. I think there's hundreds of thousands of people out there being through the mill, the different groups that Don Black and I have, etc. They're still out there. They can't all be falling asleep. So, and then I wanted to mention, like you've talked about the colorblind conservatism. You should write a book about this stuff, and maybe if a book, a pamphlet or something got put in the hands, it would be like the Common Sense Revolution.
Okay, well,
perhaps I will.
We're about out of time. Well, that'll be some of your free time there, Don Advo.
Right.
Like this shaking Common Sense pamphlet. But as John points out, a lot of people are out there just waiting to join a movement they think can win. The hackneyed phrase, nothing succeeds like success, well, it's still true. And we hope to demonstrate that we can win this, and we are providing hope. That's the purpose of what we're doing.
Thank you for having me on. I'm truly honored.
Thank you. We will be back tomorrow. Much more to talk about.
In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the next 12 months will be the most anticipated and important months in modern human history. This will make 2008 look like a walk in the park. Everyone will be affected. Go to www.the3videos.com now. Learn how to prepare your family and prosper during the global financial collapse.
What could you do if you felt better? A tennis match? 18 holes of golf? Swimming laps around the pool? Well, you could make these activities a reality just by using Heart and Body Extract, a 100% organic nutritional supplement. It's a liquid formula you simply take 3 times a day. It's designed to balance and support the heart and circulatory system. What makes it so effective is that it goes right into the blood vessels in minutes and starts to work, replacing elements that are missing in your body that are usually associated with poor heart and body circulation, with no negative side effects. Plus, only Heart and Body Extract comes with a lifetime guarantee. It works or your money back. To